Last week's federal budget projected a deficit of $28.5 billion. Quebec has just tabled its third balanced budget and sits on a surplus of almost $2.5 billion. It's the largest in Quebec history. Two very different philosophies of government. Mathieu Bédard is an economist with the Montreal Economic Institute, and thank you for coming in today.
Glad to be here.
So they are two very different philosophies: spend, deficit, be frugal, balance the budget. Objectively, is it possible to say which is a better plan than the other?
So I think if you want to do objectivity, you need to compare it with something else. So if we look at internationally, for example, we know that the fiscal burden in Quebec is very high. If you look simply at the income tax, we're in the second place of all industrialized countries. So we're the second place with the highest income tax. If you look at how much money is left in our pocket once the taxman has come, we're the worst province. So with regards to this metric, for example, it is very good to have that kind of budget in Quebec. I think that for Ottawa, it is less good because what they're trying to achieve is stimulating the economy through spending. And if you look at Canada's history, for example, in the 1990s, when we've cut back on spending and we've had balanced budget, we've actually stimulated the economy. So we've done the total opposite, and it worked. So.
Okay, and I'm smiling because I knew if you ask an economist, okay, which is better, I knew I was never going to get a yes or no answer, because it is so much more complex, right?
Well, let me say clearly, I think definitely it's better to have a balanced budget like Quebec does, like BC does, than what Ottawa's been doing.
But it's still, you know, there's so many different other factors at play, right? They say that a budget is never just a financial document. There are politics involved, and also the current economy is also in play as well, plus what's happening, let's say, in the United States, right? There's so many different factors that have to be considered.
Yes, yes, and I think that Ottawa should be looking at the good students among Canadian provinces. Quebec, BC have both had balanced budget for a few years now, and both are doing very well economically. I think Ottawa should inspire itself from those two provinces.
But to be absolutely realistic, is it possible, though, to ever look at, for any government to look at it and say, no, we've got to put the politics aside? You know, I asked you a little bit just before we came on about the Quebec budget, and you said you wish that there could have been more tax cuts.
Oh, definitely.
But was it, given this budget, was it possible to do those big tax cuts yesterday, or do you think they're just waiting for next year?
Well, if you remember the Liberal Party's campaign promises back in 2014, they had promised that they would use half of the budget surplus toward tax cuts and half toward reducing the debt. So I think there was definitely room, and I think in their promise there was room for more tax cut than this. So they've been reducing little bit of the taxes through the base amount that is not covered by taxes. So they've been cutting the health contribution. Those are relatively small. The health contribution is a very recent tax that had just come into effect in 2010, that had been raised only in 2013. So I think this is timid tax cut. It's always good to take. It's always positive.
It's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing, but I think they could definitely have gone further.
So this is a political, well, we don't know for sure, but we could speculate that it might be a political measure that would allow them to give us more tax cuts.
So I think
next year, when it's an election year.
I do hope that they continue in the same direction, because simply because of the fiscal burden in Quebec is so high. You know, we're quite simply the most taxed place in North America. So yeah, I think the taxpayer deserves a tax cut.
I absolutely agree. On the other hand, though, on the federal side, there was a lot of concern because there seemed to be no plan to get that deficit down. Should we be concerned?
We should definitely be concerned. In the very long run, this is how you get to a place where it becomes problematic, by simply pushing back the date where you will go back to a balanced budget. Places that are going wrong in Europe are all places that have been pushing back those dates for a very long time now. Now, we're not nowhere near that in Canada, and we should not be near that kind of situation for many years. But that's still kind of the way that you get there in the long run.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming in. And for people who want more information, there's a lot of interesting articles on the Montreal Economic Institute website, iedm.org. And thanks again for coming in. We'll be right back.